This is David Alan Grier, podcasting for the Daily Crowdsource. Today I'm going to take a look at the recently completed CrowdConf 2011. This conference is one of several crowd conferences that have been held this year. There have been two academic conferences, HConf and a human computing workshop, as well as CrowdConf, which is more focused on industry. It's the second time CrowdConf has been held. The first one was just a year ago, and we've seen a substantial industry growth over the last year. There are 15% more attendees and a lot of interest in crowdsourcing and crowdsourced processes. The conference had a new announcement about industry associations and lots of exhibits and activity. But the real question is, what does it tell us? Where does it show us how the industry is growing and what's going to happen in the coming year and in the years beyond that? As we look to the future, the key question, and I've talked about this in earlier podcasts, is whether crowdsourcing is an industry or a production process. The answer is, of course, it's both. It is a production process that will have wide applicability, but we are also seeing elements of a real industry forming around it. A group of companies that offer crowdsourcing services as their primary activity. There's a lot of commonality across the board. All of these companies involve internet and workers and often quite large scales of activity. Some of them, however, as I've said before, are not going to have a lot of things that are going to hold them together. And I suspect, maybe even this year, we are likely to see some of them starting to spin off and go their own way. The likely core involves microtasking, the idea of taking large tasks and breaking them into little teeny pieces and putting them out in various labor channels. The thing that we saw at this conference is that microtasking is difficult to do well. The difficulty arrives not so much in the tasks themselves, but in the management of it. It's difficult and costly to establish, it is costly to check, and it is very costly to manage. So with that kind of structure hanging over the industry, it seems likely to me that it will follow a path similar to the one which the software industry followed. The software industry grew, where it was able to provide a common product and spread the cost of developments across many customers. And it seems likely that crowdsourcing, particularly microtasking, with the challenges that bear such close resemblance to programming, we will see it establishing itself as a common industry and with common concerns and common activities. A group of us were sitting around talking about the scale of business, and the usual hyperbole came out that there are 7 billion residents. You may be aware that the 7 billionth is a young woman who was born just prior to CrowdConf in the Philippines, and that 7 billion residents represented an incredible labor source and could, in effect, be the major push of industrialization for the next century. I think there's a great truth in that. I think we also need to be careful. Right now, only 1 out of 7 of those billion residents really have access to the kind of technology that you need to be a crowdsourced worker. And once you start dealing with language and cultural issues and other activities, you start seeing that pool shrink. It suggests that there may be a point, sometime perhaps not very far away, that we will start seeing competition for crowd workers, that we will have a certain number of channels open and we will see a large number of jobs on them that need to be done, and the workers simply not there, or not there in the scale to get them done quick enough. It's an interesting thought. For the moment, however, we're seeing the world open and opportunities lying ahead and no crunch happening soon. One of the questions that came up time and again is what's going to happen a year from now. And I think there are two things that will be important to the industry. The first is profit. I think we will see a couple of the early crowdsourced companies start to turn a profit. The next is customers, Fortune 500 firms. We've seen enough of them starting to show interest that it seems likely we will see some contracts from large industrial organizations, and that, too, will start to change the industry. It's been a successful conference. I think a lot of people there were new to it, and it had a lot of presentations and exhibits that suggested this industry is going ahead and moving ahead quickly. That's what I have from CrowdConf 2011. This has been David Alan Grier, broadcasting from the Capitol Hill studios of the Daily Crowdsource. You can find more of these podcasts, as well as podcasts by other individuals involved in the crowdsourcing industry, at thedailycrowdsource.com. I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me at dag@dagrier, that's DAGRIER.net. Been good talking with you. Take care.